Hello everyone and welcome to the Vintage Side. In this video I will be making 3 walnut recipes. These recipes are all from the early 30s. The first recipe is for walnut cake and it appeared in an advert for Mum's baking powder. For this cake we need flour with baking powder, cocoa, chopped walnuts, butter, sugar, eggs and milk, and vanilla essence for flavouring. The method for the walnut cake is cream together butter and sugar and then add eggs well beaten. Add milk and vanilla essence. Mix together the flour, baking powder, cocoa and chopped walnuts and then add this to the wet mixture. Bake in a slow oven for half to 3/4 of an hour. Ice with chocolate icing and sprinkle with walnuts. I will be baking this at 150 degrees Celsius, which I am interpreting from their suggestion of a slow oven. Cooking this cake at 150 degrees Celsius, it took slightly less than half an hour. Now I'm going to let the cake cool and then I will ice it with some chocolate icing. For the icing, I just made a simple ganache. I chilled it and then I mixed it to make it spreadable. When I was making up this cake, I was surprised at the small amount of ingredients. It only has 1 cup of flour and then everything is in comparison to that a small amount. So this has made a very small cake. I did use my smallest cake tin, but even still the cake is 1.5 inches tall. You could make 2 batches and put one on top of the other and then you would have a sandwich cake and then you could ice that and it would be a much taller cake. So let's see what it tastes like. I really like this cake. The ratio of nuts to cake is quite high, so if you like a lot of nuts in your cake then you'll love this. And it's not overly sweet, which helps balance it out after you've iced it. This cake is not too dry and not overly moist, but it is a nice soft crumb. And now I'm going to finish my piece. This next recipe is for walnut patties. This was published in the October New Idea magazine from 1935. For this recipe, we will need walnuts, sugar, flour, and egg. To make this recipe, we need to beat the egg well and add the sugar very lightly. Into this, we stir the finely chopped walnuts, then add the flour. Drop onto a greased tin with a teaspoon. Make these patties about the size of macarons and bake them in a moderate oven for 10 minutes. I will be baking these at around 170 to 180 degrees Celsius in a fan-forced oven. Here are the walnut patties just out of the oven and they took around 10 minutes, which was what the recipe suggested. I had them on 175 degrees Celsius in a fan-forced oven. They firmed up nicely and they're lovely golden brown. I will let these cool and then I will have a taste. So here are the walnut patties, nicely cooked. Nice clean break. They smell lovely and sweet and of walnuts. Oh, these are scrumptious. You've got a lovely caramelly, nutty, sweet bite. These would be delicious for an afternoon tea, just as a little extra along with some cakes and other biscuits. I think that the walnuts could be changed for another nut. These could easily be made with almonds or hazelnuts and I think they would be just as delicious. So if you don't prefer walnuts, then you could definitely change the nuts out. These are really good. This next recipe is for chocolate walnut cake. It was published in the Australian Women's Mirror in May of 1933. For this recipe, we will need eggs, milk, walnuts, cocoa, sugar, butter, and flour. To make the chocolate walnut cake, we need to mix together very soft butter and sugar. Then add the well-beaten eggs, flour, and chopped nuts. Dissolve the cocoa in the milk and mix into the batter. Bake the cake for 1 hour in a moderate oven. When cold, the cake can be iced. I will be baking this cake at 180 degrees Celsius in a fan-forced oven. So here is our cake out of the oven. The recipe said that it needed to bake for an hour, but mine was ready after about 30 minutes. Cakes do cook a lot faster in my oven. I've always noticed that, but even still, less than half an hour when the recipe said it would take 1 hour is a very big difference. Anyway, while the cake cools, I will move on with the bonus recipe in this video, and that is a delicious caramel icing that we'll be putting on this cake. For this caramel icing recipe, we will need sugar, milk, butter, and vanilla essence with a pinch of bicarb. To make the icing, we need to heat the sugar with the milk slowly until it is near boiling point and the sugar has dissolved. Remove from heat and add butter, vanilla, and bicarb. Beat with a whisk until the mixture becomes thick and creamy, and then pour over the cake. Decorate with walnuts. So I made up the icing according to the directions, and I'm whisking away and I'm thinking, how is this supposed to get thicker? It's boiling hot. Does that mean I need to keep whisking it until it completely cools down and then it thickens up? So I stopped whisking and I popped the icing into the fridge and let the refrigerator do the work of cooling down the icing. Now it is thick and ready to spread on the cake. Here is our cake, iced and decorated with some walnut, and let's see how it tastes. This cake is really nice. The actual cake itself is quite soft and a little bit on the crumbly side. That does not detract from the flavor. It's a lovely light chocolate cake with walnuts in it. It is quite a sweet cake by itself, and with the addition of the what I am very loosely calling caramel icing, it takes it just over the edge of being a little bit too sweet. Now let's talk about this icing, if you can call it that. It is much more like a chocolate sauce, a thick chocolate sauce. That does not mean that it is not delicious, because it is absolutely amazing, but it's definitely a chocolate sauce and not an icing. As you can see, it is falling off the cake. I am definitely going to use this icing recipe again anytime I want a good caramel sauce, and I think I'm definitely going to make this cake again. It's really good.